rise of Islamist trend of militancy in Bangladesh. All right. So let's begin. We are following one of the primary articles that will give you primary perspective that who are is Bangladeshi Islamist militants. The article is written by Dr. Ali Riaz. This article was published in 2016, if I'm not wrong, and it was published in one of the prominent journals of terrorism studies that is called Perspectives on Terrorism. So we will see that. That's a very primary article, and it will just give you some perspective on history and other stuff. All right, so let's begin our lecture. So, if we follow the article that from 1980 till 2016, why till 2016? Number one, the article was published in 2016. Number two is from 2016 onwards, we have seen the decline of Islamist terrorism in Bangladesh. All right, there are several factors worked on that. Globally, its influence declined. Number one. Number two, the counterterrorism efforts were very uh, good in Bangladesh. Although after the fall of Sheikh Hasina's regime, we have seen that there are some controversies surfaced. All right, so let's begin. The first generation of Islamist militancy in Bangladesh can be traced back to Afghan war. As you know, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan in 1979, as we have said discussed in uh, uh, many occasions. Now, in 1984, a group of Bangladeshi people, particularly they volunteered to go to Soviet Union, not Soviet Union, to fight against Soviet Union. They joined Afghan Mujahideen, Muslim people who found that the godless ideology has attacked a Muslim country. So they found that it is very critical to save their religion. So around 3,000 volunteers went to uh, Afghanistan from Bangladesh, and from 1984 till 1988, around 24 people died. All right. So between 1988 and 1992, a prominent leader of this group, Shafiqur Rahman, he came back to Bangladesh and somehow managed to uh, establish contact with Harkatul Jihad al-Islami. It was a Pakistani organization, Islamist organization, and they opened a Bangladeshi chapter of Harkatul Jihad al-Islami in Bangladesh, Huji B যেটাকে আমরা বলি হুজি Bangladesh somehow. In 1992, uh, when the Mujahideen became victorious in Afghanistan, the Bangladeshi participants of the war expressed their delight and held a press conference, ঠিক আছে? And they identified themselves in the press conference as the members of Harkatul Jihad al-Islami in Bangladesh, or in short, you can call them Fuji Bangladesh, all right, Fuji B. Right. Now, in the beginning, their focus, look, they were the veterans of Afghan war. Why did they go to the Afghan war? Because they wanted to support the Muslim brothers of their Muslim brothers who were suffering. Right. So in Bangladesh, there was no challenge like that, that some a group of people were oppressing Muslim brothers. However, if you see the history from the other side of the border, particularly, as you know, in the 90s, there was a few flow of Rohingyas who came to Bangladesh, right? So they found that the Rohingya people, being Muslim, they are being tortured and persecuted by the Myanmar government just because they have some similarity with Bengalis and they are Muslims. So their focus was essentially on the southeastern hills of Bangladesh, particularly close to the border of Burma. And their initial objective was to use Bangladesh as a launching pad to influence Rohingya movements inside Myanmar. All right. Now, if you consider the leadership was older people, senior people. They were being the leader and mostly from madrasa, particularly Deobandi trend of madrasa, and they're from rural areas. All right. Now, in 19, that was the first generation. So the first generation of Islamist militants can be traced back to uh, uh, the veterans of Afghan war. As I said, there was another group called Muslim Millat Bahini. All right. In 1989, there was Muslim Millat Bahini, and this is one of the uh, what should I say? This group was very different from the Harkatul Jihad al Islami. Particularly, you see, in 1989, 13 December, one paper cutting from ইত্তেফাক দ্য কুন্দিয়ায় পীরের বাহিনীর সহিত 500 পুলিশের রীতিমতো যুদ্ধ particularly it's in Kishoreganj area and it's a Howar area so that peer it is said that he was the peer actually he is not a peer he was a member of some armed forces in Bangladesh later he radicalized himself and he wanted to raise a militant group or a militia and he had bunkers. He used his previous knowledge from serving in the armed forces. Uh, some say he was a major. I did not find his backgrounds anywhere or detailed backgrounds anywhere, so I cannot confirm you that. But I have read article, particularly written by Shafi and Mustafa and David Doyle or something. Doyle, right? So this was one of the interesting counterterrorism operation. One of the uh, largest scale of counterterrorism operation in Bangladesh till now. It involved around 500 police back in that time. And as you know, back in 1989, there was no RAB, there was no armed police battalion, if I'm not wrong, right? So it was just police, and the police was in charge of domestic counterterrorism effort. All right, so fast forward after 10 years, we have the next generation of terrorists, that is Jamaatul Mujahideen Bangladesh. In 1998, Jamaatul Mujahideen Bangladesh was established, particularly uh, its leader. All right, Shaykh Abdul Rahman and Siddiqur Rahman. Shaykh Abdul Rahman was a son of Ahle Hadith leader in Bangladesh. All right, Ahle Hadith leader in Bangladesh. And in the previous generation, in the first generation, we have seen Huji B was mostly focused on the southeastern side of Bangladesh. They were trying to help their Rohingya brothers, right? However, now in the second generation, their perspective change or their objective change. They shifted their core focus, shifted towards mostly towards inside the country. They were focusing to transform the country into into a Islamic state. All right. Now they had another uh, group, Jamaatul Mujahideen Bangladesh, that is Jagrata Muslim Janata Bangladesh. All right. Mm. uh, Particularly they created these two groups managed to create a ring of terror in Bangladesh and in the first generation we have seen that the main focus of these terrorists were in the southeastern side. Rather, in the second generation, they moved to the northern side of Bangladesh. As you know, particularly North Bengal যেটাকে বলে রাজশাহীটা সেই সাইডে। All right, and in 2006, 2006, they blasted around 450 homemade bombs across the country. They managed to blast 63 series bombs in the country. And I was a kid back then. I used to live in hostel. It was a Friday, if I'm not wrong, and everyone was scared. We did not know what is happening outside. All right. So, if you see by late 2006, we have a misconception in this country, particularly that these terrorists came from madrasas, and the madrasas were the hub of terrorism. And most of the terrorists we have seen, particularly Islamist terrorists, they are from madrasas. They've studied in the madrasa background, right? But which is not entirely true. You see, the first generation of terrorists who volunteered, they were from madrasa. The second generation, the leaders were essentially from madrasas, and many of the operators were from madrasa. That is true. But if you see the profiles of JMB operatives, particularly in late 2006, you will find people who studied in technical or vocational training colleges, right? They were from that. We also had a misconception in this country that most of these terrorists came from rural areas. That is not true. Many of the terrorists also came from born and raised in Afghanistan. Sorry, not Afghanistan. Sorry, they were born and raised in the cities. Right. In 2001, there was another group that is called Hizbut Tahrir. That is the third generation you can see. Why third generation? You see, in the first previous two generation, the leadership was essentially held by madrasa leaders. However, this uh, Hizbut Tahrir group was established by a Commonwealth scholar, and as you know, getting a Commonwealth scholarship for higher studies in England, it's very prestigious. You have to be uh, very meritorious. All right, particularly if you see, we have some in our department. Tasmia Sadia madam got it, Kamruzzaman sir got it, RK পেয়েছে. I'm not sure whether Tarin madam got it. Oh no, Tarin madam went for Shivning. Uh, so this is quite prestigious. All right. So Hizbut Tahrir, it was created by a university professor. All right. So if you see the members of this group, they have very interesting skill set. Like they have technical skills, mostly from engineering branch of higher education or tertiary education. They were university students. They had good understanding of global political events. They are not from uh, some as we assume that they are from very rural and remote areas of madrasas. No, they were well aware of global political events, and most of them were from middle class and more urban based areas. All right. Now, as you see from 2005, 2006, 2007, the country went through a massive threat of terrorism, and most of the leaders of JMB, they were captured, particularly the using RAB, right? RAB was very instrumental for doing counter-terrorism, all right? And after 2007, there was a 2006 to from 2006 to 2008, there was a caretaker government, military backed caretaker government, and in 2009 Awami League government came to power. And when they came to power, they had one of the promises that they will have zero tolerance against this terrorism. All right, that was one of the electoral promises, and they managed to keep the promise until the mishap of 2016 happened. Right. However, there were some new group. All right, particularly a new generation of terrorist emerged. That is the fourth generation Ansarullah Bangla team. All right. So what Ansar was different from Ansarullah Bangla team is that first Ansarullah Bangla team emerged at Jamatul Muslimin in 2007. However, it managed to attract new recruits from 2012 and onwards. Particularly, their strategies changed. All right, they used cyberspace. Use of cyberspace became very prominent. Uh, uh, they used some groups. They had some Facebook groups. All right, and like Ansar al Mujahideen English Forum. All right, they used Al Qaeda affiliated websites. All right, and they aimed at eradicating democracy. And this group was very much influential in killing some of the so-called secular vloggers whom they saw a threat as they were expressing uh, their views which clashed with Islam, or they were seen as uh, very much threat to Islam. Some of the vloggers, yes, that is true. Some of the vloggers' comments or writings were very much against Islam. Some of them were quite offensive, and as you know, in 2013, many of the vloggers were killed and brutally murdered. All right, so this group, Ansarullah Bangla team, was uh, 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 influential in doing that. Uh, The fifth generation, we can call them that homegrown terrorist outfit inspired from Al Qaeda or ISIS. All right. So, particularly in 2014, Ayman al Zawahiri, the leader of Al Qaeda, the successor of Osama bin Laden. All right. So, what he did, he said that we will have a new branch, AQIS, যেটাকে বলে Al Qaeda in South Asia. Sorry, Al Qaeda in Indian subcontinent. They call that all the people in South Asia should launch massive public uprising that is called Intifada in defense of Islam against the enemies of Islam. And following that, we have seen there were some homegrown terrorist outfits in Bangladesh, যেটাকে ধরো বাংলাদেশের সরকারি কাগজপত্রে নিও জেএমবি হিসাবে নাম দেওয়া হয়েছে। নাও নিও জেএমবি, often it is said it is a creation of the government. Basically, they did not want to express the fact that these groups are Al Qaeda affiliated. However, if you see activities of these groups, they try to project themselves that they belong to ISIS, particularly ISIS. All right, given the time 2013, 2014, 2015, 16, the threat of ISIS was very much real. They were being very much influential, and they were winning wars in Syria, they were winning wars in Iraq, so people were afraid. So the government did not want people to panic and lose their hopes, so they tried to project these groups as homegrown terrorist outfits. However, you consider them homegrown, or you consider them direct under the direct influence of ISIS. Uh, to some extent, they had some connection with ISIS, particularly if you analyze the situation of particularly if you analyze the case of Holy Artisan War, Holy Artisan Attack, you will see that ভুলে গেলাম, leader নাম কি, they had some connections with the central ISIS. They were connected with ISIS. They traveled from other country, Turkey and other places, Canada, and came to Bangladesh, all right, to plan the attack. Right. So this can be described as the fifth generation. So right, so five generation. It is not like a generation, rather this transformation, one group from another group. That's a simple transformation. So that is the history. However, we have seen uh, in previous years, particularly in early 2021, 2022, the new group, uh, Cookie Chin National Front, it emerged, and it collaborated with Jamatul Ansar Al Hindal or something like that. That group was short-lived, and that group was also created by a university professor, if I'm not wrong. He worked at either Open University or National University, if I'm not wrong. He worked at Bangladesh Open University. All right, so that is the history. And you see, at present, when I was in the Rohingya camp in this January, I saw that many people from many Rohingya people, they are sympathizers of ARSA. Some believe that ARSA is very powerful. Some believe that ARSA is not powerful. But you will find huge number of people they have sympathy towards ARSA. All right. Uh, so in future, this might be also a problem. Now, that was the lecture, counterterrorism efforts. We will not focus on that, rather than the fact that you already know many things on this counterterrorism effort. One thing is that coming to power in 2009, Sheikh Hasina and her Awami League government was quite good. They could manage to curb the influence of terrorism until 2013, particularly due to the killing of some brutal killing of some bloggers and secular writers, or as they identify themselves as secular writers. All right. Now, in 2013, as you see, the election was coming. Right, in 2014, we had an election. So, given the situation, it became worse. In 2016, uh, there was another big event in Bangladesh, that is Holy Artisan attack, and it shook the country. And as you know, ISIS and other groups were uh, continuously making threats to Bangladesh, and the government was being questioned over and over again about uh, the presence of ISIS, and the government kept denying the fact that there is no ISIS in the country. There are two reasons for that. Number one, which is very relatable, that is particularly the government did not want people to lose hope on them, and particularly they did not want uh, people to panic. All right, if the terrorist wants people to panic, so they were denying it. Number two is that uh, too much politicization in the government. All right, they try to connect particularly the opposition with টেররিজম এফোর্টস, অলরাইট। দেখা যেত যে অপোজিশনের লিডার, দেখা গিয়েছে একটা কোথাও কোনো একটা ইনসিডেন্ট ঘটেছে, 2-3 জন কেস হয়েছে, পুলিশ কেসের মধ্যে টেররিস্টদের তো নাম আছেই, বিএনপি বা জামাত বা এ ধরনের কোনো গ্রুপের লিডারদের নাম ইচ্ছাকৃতভাবে ঢুকিয়ে দেওয়া হতো, ঠিক আছে। অ্যান্ড টু সাম এক্সটেন্ট, ইফ ইউ রিড জোসেফ আলচিনস বুক Many Rivers One Sea, it's available online. You will see many incidents of political leaders, uh, many issues where political leaders were involved in terrorism, or they had some link with terrorism. Right, so it is not entirely a lie, but due to politicization, if you read Jasmine Lodge's article on Bangladesh's terrorism, you will find that due to politicization, things changed. All right, the main focus from countering terrorism was shifted, and it was more people in power were more interested in countering their political opposition. All right. So before closing our discussion, let me debunk some misconception. Number one is that if you see the profiles of the terrorists in this country, particularly Islamist terrorists, yes, it is true that in the first generation, or in the first two generations, most of them came from madrasas. And yes, it is also true that many madrasas were used as a hub, but it is not that true that all the madrasas were involved, or all the terrorists, or all the sympathizers of terrorism, or the members of these terrorist groups were from madrasas. They came from diverse background, particularly after 2006-7. If you see, that many of them were born and raised in urban centers. Many of them were studying engineering. Many of them were studying in universities. Many of them came from upper class families whose fathers were কি বলবো, whose fathers or parents were educated in universities and other places. All right, you will find sons of military officers or government officers. One of the perpetrators in Holy Artisan attack, his father was one of the leaders in then political party what was in power. So and many of them studied abroad. মালয়েশিয়াতে পড়াশোনা করেছে। সাইফুল্লাহ জাকি, there was a he was one of the masterminds behind Holy Artisan attack. He was a professor in an university at in Japan. All right. So that was it. If you have any question. All right, so you are 82 people. Thank you very much. That was it for today. I will give you attendance. Don't worry about it. Thank you very much. কারো কোনো প্রশ্ন আছে? কারো কোনো দাবি দেওয়া আছে?
স্যার আমাদের সিটির ডেটটা জানালে ভালো হতো স্যার।
কবে সিটি দিতে চাও বলো?
স্যার
তোমাদের
আমরা এ সেকশনে স্যার এই বৃহস্পতিবার কি সিটি নেওয়া পসিবল?
দেখো